Hi, it's Kirby Summers for the Epstein Project podcast. I'm going to be discussing my new book, Creating Epstein. Those of you who are members of the Epstein Project newsletter will have you've already read a good portion of it. It sort of is a book that happened. I began investigating some of the more repellent stories I'd heard by former CIA agents, whistleblowers, even some people who were in the FBI, and how they, let's say, during a mission would deposit women who were stolen, children, who would do all these nefarious things for the CIA. So I started not knowing that I was going to eventually be writing a book, and that I would be stumbling upon time and time and time again the MKUltra aspect, which many of you have heard me talk about. And so I just want to go over how something can be manufactured. And I'm going to be using specific examples. And then I'm going to ask you to think about the information I present to you. And meaning, I guess in this case, I'm going to say if the intelligence community in the United States, and in fact, other countries, can create things that are not real. It didn't happen because it just happened. It was an orchestrated, manipulated, contrived event or a series of events. Then how is that applicable to someone like Jeffrey Epstein and what happened, which is something I talk about and I tweet about on a regular basis. So before I get started, first, thank you again for the incredible support that I get from you on a daily basis. Please like the video, subscribe. It's become very difficult to stay on top of sending out notices when I'm going to put up a video. So you will get, I guess, an automatic notice from YouTube if you subscribe to the channel. And again, the book is Creating Epstein. I started the book with, like the video, like the video. I started the book with a different title. It was called Bill Barr, Leslie Wexner, and the CIA. And then, of course, with a lot of examples, different chapters on different things that happened in covert programs that you as a regular person, me as a regular person, we didn't know this was happening. And then the more I dug, so recently I did a sort of like a detour because some of the best information, I have to tell you, I think that I said something about maybe I'll take some time off and help you guys learn how to do real research, because research is not Googling, but it's kind of almost impossible for you to learn from anyone. You have to do it yourself, because the best finds, in my experience, and I've been researching forever. Basically, I grew up as a kid who was researching, and then researched in libraries before there was the internet. And then when the internet came around, I was able to find court cases and things like that. But the best finds are those you discover while you're looking for something else. So I may be looking for a specific document or a specific case or something that happened on a specific date or on a specific person, and I'll stumble upon something else. And that sometimes is my little golden nugget that I didn't know existed. So while I was working on these nefarious assignments that I heard about, it kind of led to my discovery that Jeffrey Epstein indeed was an MKUltra creation. I'm not going to get into the entire series of events that led me to that. That's detailed with historical information in Creating Epstein, which you can pre-order now. It's going to be on sale in April. So a couple of weeks from now, I'm really just finishing up the book right now. But I actually detoured into Hollywood, right? So I had remembered that Ira Rickless's father, Meshulam Rickless, and his wife, Pia Zadora, had done a series of films and how he was involved with Hollywood. And of course, I've been looking into the Franklin scandal deeply, and other connected trafficking rings that people think are separate, but which I see as being part of a whole. And then it took me to Boys Town and the movies, and the movie that was made in, I believe, in the 1930s, starring Mickey Rooney. That led me to the Hollywood scene, and it led me to the music scene. And then I realized, wait a minute, there's been a lot of manufactured stuff, right? And so, for example, the Vietnam War, when the Vietnam War sort of went into high gear, I believe that was in 1965. So it was already there when JFK became president. And but it sort of went into high gear in 1965. And at around the same time, the music industry, which was in New York City, moved to Los Angeles. And it moved, it's funny because I've also been looking into Charles Manson and the murder of Sharon Tate, the LaBianca murders. And actually, it's led me to a series of many suicides, strange deaths, strange other murders that have not been looked into. It led me into finding out that, Manson was part of this group. He was, in fact, a friend of Mama Cass and was in everyone's home. This was a tight-knit group that they were having let's just say these very risque parties, and they were into satanic abuse. They were into these rituals, but what became pretty clear to me, because Anton LaVey was someone who I connected to these people, and I'm not the only one to have connected Anton LaVey. Anton LaVey had a role in Rosemary's Baby, Roman Polanski. So I did all of this in a couple of talk shows I've been on, and I've written about this in my newsletter, and I'm sure I've tweeted about it endlessly. However, I did not understand, even though I know how much is fake, so that for me, I can't watch a movie anymore. I can't really listen to music in the way that I used to be able to, because I see the hand of the intelligence agency and MKUltra, sorry, behind everything. So when the music scene migrated to Los Angeles, where pretty much that's the seed of Hollywood, and Hollywood's been around, for a very long time. So you have the silent films with like Rudy Valentino, who also had a very strange and unexpected death. So we have a repeating pattern of people who are made to become stars, manufacture stars, promoted by the media. I always tell you, the media is an arm of the intelligence agency, right? And it's not like there are people who, if you go back into, let's say, the 1960s specifically, because I want to talk about what happened. So the war in Vietnam, students were already protesting. The government didn't want any student protests. So what they did was they created a different type of music, and they did it in Los Angeles. They did it in this group that was connected to Charles Manson, coincidentally. So they created, like, let's say, the Mamas and the Papas. They created the Doors. They created, all of these synthetic groups. And if you were to look and do a study of the musical groups that were created in the 1960s that were made famous, let's say they went on the Ed Sullivan Show, another CIA front. They toured with, other well-known celebrities who were, again, created by the intelligence factory. Actually, there should be an intelligence factory. I should call maybe my book The Intelligence Factory. But anyway, if you go back to that, you will notice that all of these people that became famous in the late 1960s came from military families, so that their parents were in the military, and not necessarily like the rank and file military, but the military people who had high positions within the military. So they were part of the OSS. They were lifers. They were connected to the political establishment of the United States. And so I don't think it's a coincidence. I mean, you have a lot of these musicians that didn't know how to play an instrument, right? That basically, and I believe it was Phil Spector who had control of a certain band. I'm not going to name a lot of names here. I just, I don't want to do that. I don't want to draw the wrong attention. But there was like there were one or two of these. One was in Los Angeles and one was somewhere else. But there are these groups that would supply the music for all of these bands that you saw on TV, or you listened to, or you bought the music and you ran out. And the reason, and then of course it was the making LSD available, which was done. I mean, it's not that difficult if you start researching, and of course I'll have information in my book, Creating Epstein, but that information is readily available, how the LSD scene in the 1960s was definitely connected to MKUltra and the CIA. So that what they did was they manufactured these actors and these musicians so that you could kind of like drop out from society. So it was sort of like, oh, just get high. And if you got high and you just were uninvolved with what was happening in the world, the goal was to get you not to pay attention to the war. If you didn't pay attention to the war, you were not going to protest. And so that's a very manufactured thing, so that when I uploaded to my Patreon the hippie movement, the manufacture of the hippie movement, that's pretty much what it was. The whole hippie movement was a manufactured event by the CIA. So then I decided, let me just take a closer look at Hollywood, and let me just take a look at these actors. And so we have, every now and then we'll have an actor that sort of like spins out of control. And it starts to happen at around age 30, which is interesting because everything I've read about the programming that's done in MKUltra, the age, if it's done at the time that you're young and you're programmed to be a certain way, the age that it's supposed to sort of wear off is in your 30s. And so some of these actors will kind of like spin out of control. Let's take, as an example, let's take Elvis Presley. He kind of spun out of control. He became fat. He got into drugs, and then he died at the age of 44. Take as another example. Bear with me, I'm going to look for his name. So you have Jim Morrison, his father, connected to intelligence. His father was, Morrison was not someone who ever thought of himself as becoming a musician, but he found himself being an icon, a rock icon. His longevity was very short. His father, let me just go in here. My notes are always very, very long. So his father, it's interesting. I had the information on his father, and I have to say that, oh, there it is. Okay. His father was George Stephen Morrison, who was a United States admiral. He was the commander of the United States Naval Forces during the Gulf of Tonkin incident of August 1964. And basically what that did was it sparked an escalation of the United States involvement in Vietnam. So his son, who had no interest in music, suddenly becomes this icon. He didn't play, he really didn't play any instrument. He had not been a singer. He had just been, a kid, a regular looking kid. He didn't have long hair. Suddenly he has long hair. He becomes like a major star. But then, at the age of 27, so it's a little bit before he's 30, right? He dies in a strange death. However, before his death, he becomes bloated and fat, and so like his programming seems to have been lost. And because the taste is changes and the music keeps going, and it's all manufactured stuff by the CIA. They don't need, let's say, Jim Morrison anymore, right? So they can let him do whatever he wants to do. They're going to get newer and younger people. So today we have what, like Miley Cyrus. I bet you when she turns around 30, there's going to be something weird with her. We have Lindsay Lohan, and we know what's been going on with her. I believe all of these people were MKUltra. And again, I use that term as an umbrella term, because there are thousands of programs. And while the CIA, after they were outed, and even after the church committee hearings and all of that happened in 1975, we're not going to do it anymore. But no, I found information that showed that they moved with the help of the United States Navy, that they moved the MKUltra program to a new headquarters from Brookhaven National Labs in Long Island, New York, to Montauk, where it became the Montauk Project. And it is in Brookhaven National Labs that I believe that's where Jeffrey Epstein was taken from the time he was a child and created. So that I'm asking you to look at if we can create, let's say, a Jim Morrison who became a singer. Well, then I also had looked at the murderers like Son of Sam, David Berkowitz, Charlie Manson. I looked at all of these like serial murders. Do you know that in the United States, that was unheard of? We didn't have that pre 1950. We really didn't have serial murders. This is something that came after. I think they really got the hang of how to use mind control weaponry against us as citizens, as people who were absorbing mainstream, absorbing the film culture, absorbing the music, um, and those who were easily lured into allowing themselves to be mind controlled in a way that it's like, okay, we're going to make you a star. And, you know, people, you see shows today where people readily line up to become contestants because when you're young, you really don't know that you're signing your life over. You're just signing your life over. In any event, I'm really incredibly excited over my new book. I was supposed to be working on my Ghislaine Maxwell book and also on the sequel to my memoir. But this book, Creating Epstein, took me to places that it just fell on my lap. It's the more I researched into the atrocities of the intelligence communities, and the more I saw the way that the CIA worked with MI5, worked with MI6, how they worked with Mossad, how little of this we as the citizens of all these countries know about this kind of like backroom arrangement. And then, of course, I've got new discoveries that I have not shared that go back to generations. I mean, way earlier than even the turn of the century. The kind of like the way that the mind control, and I had tweeted this almost at the very beginning when I started in July of 2019. I tweeted, and I'm sure it's in one of my books somewhere, that in the 1920s, the interest of, let's say, Columbia University in eugenics and in anthropology was a spin-off, and it's a branch of the mind control aspect. And that by the 30s, it was actually taken by the Germans, who used it with their scientists during the Hitler years and in the concentration camps. And then the United States goes and rescues these murderous scientists in Operation Paperclip and brings them into the United States. However, the origin of MKUltra really was Columbia University, I'm going to say, until I find proof that it wasn't there. But they had been studying that for a very long time. It was just called different things, behavior modification. You know, that's why they studied in anthropology, they studied ancient traditions and ancient civilizations, all of it for the goal of creating puppets. You know, like that's pretty much it, right? So all of Hollywood, as we now can take back a couple of steps back and take a look at it without being emotional and say, oh, okay, this is a manufactured world. The music scene, the same thing. Somebody like Jeffrey Epstein definitely manufactured. So it used to be, and before I sign off, I just want to say that it used to be, let's say through Harvard University, that the CIA would create these sort of like fake organizations, fake corporations, for the sole purpose of obscuring their role and their connection to the money that was pouring into places like Harvard University, where we have someone like Ted Kaczynski, who was I'm going to call him a victim of MKUltra. Him and he was along with a group of 21 other men. Um, so under the guise of, let's say, money that came in through a corporation that no one knew or no one was supposed to know was the CIA, they then had these scientists, they were MKUltra mind control scientists in Harvard and frankly in some prisons and schools and in many places they just put them in there. However, after they were outed in 1974 by Seymour Hersh, who wrote a series of articles for the New York Times, and then which led to the church committee hearings, the money was funneled by individuals. And that's how we get to Leslie Wexner. My next Epstein Project newsletter is going to be going deeply into Leslie Wexner, his role, things that I've heard from eyewitnesses about not just how the money flowed in, but about things that no one seems to want to talk about, and that's the satanic influence that is part of the Jeffrey Epstein story, and no one's talking about it. And the reason I believe no one's talking about it is because people are scared. You know, there are a lot of, I personally have been contacted by very shady people connected to Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. And frankly, I don't want to have anything to do with them. I do talk to some people, I interview people for research purposes, but a lot of these people, there are other people that just give me the creeps that I really don't want to have anything to do with. These, you know, we're talking about a secret government program that they want to keep secret. So that's why someone like Epstein's maid of 20 years is no longer here. That's why there has been a series of a lot of people have just suddenly died of either like fast acting cancer, or they're sailing out of a window, or they're dying in their sleep. It's just been very peculiar. We're living at a very interesting crossroad right now where we have this window, and I urge you to take advantage of this window. These don't come along historically, they don't come along often. Okay, with that, I'm going to just say thank you again. Like the video. I'm looking forward to seeing what your comments are. Um, and again, the book is called Creating Epstein. Some of you have a portion of it. I'll be sending you a completed, you don't have to buy it again. Those of you who have a portion of it will be getting a complete book in a couple of weeks. And then I think I am going to upload it to Amazon. I'm still kind of like hesitant. I'm not sure, but it might be uploaded to Amazon in a couple of weeks. Right now, you can pre-order it on my website, Creating Epstein. I'm not sure about the subtitle, Bill Barr, Leslie Wexner and the CIA. I might keep it, I might change it. I don't know. It's an exciting time. This book, I think, is going to make a lot of people stand up and take notice and look at the Jeffrey Epstein case in a way that they have not looked at it before. Anyway, with that, I'm going to wish you all to have a nice day. and I'll talk to you soon. Alrighty, bye.